Hey y'all, it's Bailey with Reclaim Grays, and I am so happy you clicked on this video. Today we have some awesome before and after projects. These items came from the thrift store or flea market type items and got a whole completely different transformation. I really like before and after projects. Y'all let me know which project ended up being your favorite transformation, and we're going to get started right now. Our first project today, man oh man, is going to be a awesome before and after. Just look at this children's jewelry box. It is precious, but it's not my style. We're going to make this piece over. I paid half off of that $3.99 price tag at Salvation Army. And our first step is to knock off these little star wooden drawer pulls on each drawer. As you can see, this piece is made out of MDF material. It is not real wood. And we did cause a little bit of damage knocking off those drawer pulls. So I'm going to come in with my sander and really scuff sand and smooth this piece over. I do not want the words and the hearts coming through my new finish. Next, we're going to come in and fix the damage right here on the drawer fronts with this glazing and spot putty. I really like this product. It dries very quick and it works perfectly for more of those shallow fills that sometimes wood filler just isn't going to stick into, if that makes sense. So I'm just using a flat piece of wood to spread out the glazing compound on each drawer front. I'm going to let it dry for about 10 to 15 minutes before coming in with my sander and smoothing that out. Once we're finished sanding, I'm going to dust everything off really quick just with a dry microfiber rag. I do not want to put too much moisture on that MDF material. And then I'm going to place the drawers back in place before coming in with a few good layers of my spray shellac primer. It is imperative that we seal up that MDF material. Our first layer of paint, I just wanted to grab a wood looking color. So I grabbed out clay by the Alchemy Fusion line. This is a chalk and limestone and acrylic paint, I believe. I ordered this from my friend's Emily's website, jbowenandcompany.com. I have really liked using this new Alchemy line. So as you can see, I'm just applying this like you regularly would when painting an object, but I'm trying to be mindful of my brush strokes. I want to mimic real wood, so I'm going to keep my brush strokes going in one direction, long, even strokes when possible, and I'm kind of wanting brush strokes when it's all said and done. I'm going to do 2 coats like this. We are going to be creating a faux wood look on this little cubby organizer. So our next step after our paint is dry is to grab out an antiquing glaze. Mine is by Paint Couture and it's already watered down quite a bit. I'm going to brush it on my drawers starting off with, and once I get a layer up there, I'm going to grab a couple different dry brushes. I have my little dusting brush here that I'm going to keep on running over the drawer fronts, wiping off any excess product on a blue shop towel, and then I grabbed a bigger bristle brush and did the same thing. And this is just going to mimic the wood grain that I'm trying to go for. When working on these smaller areas, I'm just going to pretend like it's real wood, and I'm going to go in the direction I think this little drawer and organizer would be built. Once our antiquing glaze is dry, I'm going to measure and mark the center of each of our drawer fronts and prepare to put these little baby brass bronze looking knobs on them. Now these knobs come with screws, but every project I want to put these on, the screws are too short. So I'm just going to use my super glue and accelerating spray, and I honestly believe it's going to hold. I've done several projects like this recently using the super glue, and it's held in great. It's hold great, however you say that. It works good. Either way, I think this is a awesome before and after. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this piece. I priced it for $37. Our next rescue, our next project is this pitiful mirror. I picked this up from a flea market for $5, and you can see why. The gorgeous plaster details were pretty damaged in a couple corners and a few other places on this mirror, but as long as we have a good corner and a good area to go by, we can fix it, y'all. So our first step is to remove this rusty hanging hardware, remove the nails holding this mirror in, and then very, very carefully, I'm going to grab this heavy, heavy, thick mirror and set it to the side so it can be safe. Here's a close-up of one of the damaged corners. I have already made sure that all of these remaining pieces are secure, so we don't need to glue anything else down, but you do need to do that if they have any wiggling room. But we're going to jump to the good corner, and we're going to come in with this really cool product called mold putty. I think I get this on Amazon. It comes in two parts. You mix equal parts A with equal parts B, and you roll them together until you get one solid color. Mixing this product does take a minute. I'm like in ×8 speed right now. You need to make sure they're mixed together well, and it will become a lighter yellow color before you come in and start smushing it into all the details to that corner we're trying to replicate. I'm going to take my time and really press in that putty, making sure it's made all contact it possibly can and down into those deeper crevices. Next, I'm going to just look at the other area I'm going to try to repair so I can get a size reference on what I need to do to the good side. So I've got that in my head. I know where the damage is. So I'm going to go to the good side and start placing the putty on that area in the opposite side and replicate this as well. You need to make sure your putty is thick enough. Don't do this step too thin, or when you go to peel it back, it will rip. I decided to just test out a hot glue mold to see if it would work instead of buying this product, but it was an epic, epic fail with a hot glue mold just because it's not bendable. If you use it on a flat trim surface, I believe it will work perfectly, but this frame, it has a real good concaved area, as you can see. So the hot glue is just not bendable like this mold putty is. But it did pick up all the details, so I feel like it would work in like a flatter frame, fixing a little trim piece on a frame, or a piece of furniture that's flat, some beading work. I do feel like the hot glue would work. But here's the two molds side by side. Alrighty, let's get started on the stressful part of the project. I've grabbed out my Bondo and I'm going to scoop quite a bit of the putty out on just a piece of wood. You can use a piece of cardboard, it's fine. And then I'm going to add a little bit of hardener cream to that. Mix those together well until it becomes one solid color. And once you do that, you got to work pretty quickly. I'm going to start filling in the mold we created for the side piece. I'm really making sure I'm putting the Bondo in the areas that we're trying to repair. I don't need Bondo in areas that don't need repair, if that makes sense. It's just going to create a mess. But it is okay to overfill. It's perfectly fine. We can come back in and fix the overfill. But once you get the Bondo on, you want to get this placed, line up your details, and just start smushing it into place. Next, let's jump to this corner right here. I've already filled the mold up with Bondo, and I'm going to press that into place. Just pressing for a few minutes, honestly, really working it, making sure it's flat and where it needs to be. And then as you're pressing, you're going to have some Bondo ooze out on the edges. You can get that up now, or you can get that up in about 15 minutes. But the key part of this project is once you do this step right here, you cannot walk away for the evening. You need to finish it. So in about 15 minutes, I'm peeling back my mold, and y'all, I was so impressed. I'm holding the camera and doing this at the same time, so the video work is not the best. But y'all, I was very, very impressed with the details that it picked up. But now we need to get to shaping it. It is very important that we start shaping it before that Bondo fully cures, which takes about 30 minutes. It's hard now, but the longer it sits, the harder it gets. So I'm going to take a flathead screwdriver and start chiseling out the overflow and just bits and bobs that were squeezed out that aren't a part of the design. This did take a little while scraping and plucking and digging, but I just had an audio book playing and I just took my time really working on those details with the screwdriver. The screwdriver seemed to be a pretty good tool to use too. Next, I'm going to jump to my other corner I repaired, which I repaired 3 corners. I only had one good corner, so I'm having to reuse this mold. So I'm being very, very careful when I'm peeling it up because I ran out of that Bondo putty. So my mold's good and the details came out great. Now we're not going for perfect, we're just going for better than it was. And y'all, when it's all said and done, I truly believe you cannot tell which corner was damaged and which corner was good to begin with. But y'all let me know what y'all think at the end of this project. As I'm peeling back these few molds, I do want to mention that I have been working on this side of my workshop more recently with these larger projects, and I do realize the lighting over here sucks. So just know I'm working on it. Work with me. I'm doing the best I can to try to figure out this lighting situation. One of the last steps to shaping everything well is to come in with the electric sander and sand down the areas on the edge of the frame. This will just smooth everything over so you can't see where one ends and the other begins. Once I give it a good clean, I'm going to come in with some shellac spray and give this whole frame a couple coats of primer. Next, I've grabbed Coal Black by Fusion. This is a all-in-one paint, and we're going to start working this paint into all those nooks and crannies. The purpose of this is to make sure that Bondo is 100% covered. You really got to take your time here to make sure you work the paint into all those tiny details. I just did one coat, but I did a pretty thick layer of paint on the whole frame. I was debating with myself pretty hard whether I wanted this piece white chippy or if I wanted to go gold, but I landed on gold. Y'all let me know what y'all would have went with. I'm going to use my Pigment Fix and my Pigment Medium. I don't know the name of it. I showed it on the screen. I'm sorry. But I don't have much left of the medium, so I'm just going to dump the Pigment Fix into its container, shake it around really well. I did add 5 scoops of the Pigment Fix because I want this very pigmented, which is why I love this product. You can make it as pigmented as you would like, so you really only need to do 1 coat, which is great for a gold paint. But as you can see, we're painting over our frame. I'm not going for 100% full coverage over the detailed areas. I do not mind if some of that black is peeking through just because I really like that look. It makes it look aged. It makes it look more vintage. And this is a vintage mirror, so I want to keep to that feel. But I did this all over the frame. I did come back in some of the flatter areas and add a second coat, but over the detail areas, I only did 1 coat of this gold metal pigment fix. Now let's get this mirror cleaned up. I'm going to use some Windex and scrub this baby down. The mirror does have a little bit of damage, but I honestly wonder if this is an antique mirror, not even vintage. It wouldn't surprise me if this is an antique mirror. You more experienced people out there, y'all let me know if you think it's an antique or not. But I'm struggling putting this mirror back into the frame because it is so heavy and I'm worried I might break it. Kinda. Then I'm not really worried because it's so thick. But I struggled for a few minutes, but I got it in there, and now we need to secure it, make sure this baby does not go anywhere. So I'm going to use the same method they used with little tack nails. I would not do this if it was a thinner mirror because you risk the chance of cracking it. But since this is so thick, I did not feel really worried about tapping near it, tapping on it, tapping around it with a hammer. But do at your own risk. I did lots of nails, but then I'm still going to come in with this little handy tool and shoot some little tacks into the wood frame as well, just to secure it a little bit further. Then I went another extra step. I cut these small pieces of 1/4-inch plywood down, and I'm going to use some of my super glue and accelerating spray and glue the piece to the frame, halfway on the frame, halfway on the mirror, but it's not glued to the mirror, just the frame. This will help secure it furtherly in case any of those nails decide to come out. This will be a disaster if it falls out of the frame. So I just wanted to put in the extra work to make sure that doesn't happen. Next, we're going to cover up this back. It is so large, it took 2 pieces of contractor's paper to fit the width of it. I'm just going to use my hot glue to secure both papers down, and then I will come in with my orbital sander and sand along the edge of the back side of the mirror to cut any excess paper off. And our very last step is to add a new hanging hardware. I get this kit off of Amazon. It has different D-ring hooks for different weight limits. So I chose the heaviest one that comes with the 3 screws. I'm going to do this on both sides, and then I'm going to take my wire. I was just going to do it regular way, and I started to here, but I was like, hold up, maybe I need to double up the hanging wire as well. Y'all, I'm telling you, I'm not exaggerating. This thing is heavy. It's heavy. So I'm going to wrap it or secure it in half. You know what I'm saying. I doubled the wire, secured it, and then here is our AI generated photo. It is gorgeous. The real life photos, y'all, I'm sorry, but this thing was so heavy I could not lift it up on my display mantle area to take a proper picture of it. Either way, this was a wonderful saved project. It's awesome what you can do with that mold putty. Y'all let me know what you think I should price this for. I'm thinking maybe around $150. Y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments. And we're moving on to our next project. I picked up this little Cubby piece from Salvation Army for under $10. It is made out of real wood. It is nice and heavy, sturdy piece. I pictured building some drawers to go in it. So I took some measurements down. I determined my depth, width, and how tall the drawer needed to be. And I want to start cutting out plywood. I went with 1/2 inch thick birch plywood here. It runs about, I think, $40 a sheet, but I typically always have a piece in my workshop as well as 1/4 inch plywood typically. But we're gonna get this piece cut down. I got very lucky when cutting this piece because I cut out my 5.5 by 5.5 piece, and then this leftover piece ended up being the exact size piece I needed for my other side of the box. So that was just dumb luck right there. But now we're gonna start assembling our first box. I always like to do one and test it out to make sure all my measurements are good before cutting out all the wood. I'm going to use Titebond glue on all of my joints. I've used some couple clamps as an extra pair of hands to hold the plywood in place so I can shoot 1.25 inch brad nails into the top corners, and then I'll remove the clamps and shoot some more nails in the bottom corners and in the middle of each joint. If you are ever wanting to learn woodworking, I think learning how to build a box is the perfect first woodworking step. It really teaches you a lot, I think, with just measurements, how to attach two joints together, how to keep something square, how to use clamps. I mean, I feel like it's a very easy beginner project. Just make sure your hands are out of that way for that nail gun, because I almost got myself a couple of times from a few nail blowouts, which happens. I cut a piece of 1/4 inch plywood to attach to the bottom of my box to create a drawer front, to create a drawer bottom. And I've added some glue, and I'm going to shoot a couple nails to keep that into place, making sure I'm lining up the edges of my drawer to the drawer bottom. But back to the woodworking. I think learning how to build a box is a really good beginner woodworking project. It's really not easy once you figure out your measurements. And you really don't even need to figure out your measurements if you're not building a drawer, just a box. But I tested the drawer and it worked. So I was very happy about that, and I proceeded to cut all the rest of the wood out and assembling the other 6 drawer boxes. Next, it's time to add the drawer fronts. I cut out 5.5 by 5.5 1/4 inch birch plywood pieces for each drawer front. I'm going to add some wood glue to the surface, and then I'm using really small pin nails to just add a few nails to hold that drawer front into place while that glue dries. And I did that to all of my little drawers. Now, I definitely did not have to add drawer fronts in my design. I could have just made the box and let the front of the box be the drawer front. I was just trying to make things more difficult, I guess. So I didn't include that in my measurements. But either way, I'm test fitting all of our made drawers, our built drawers now, and I am super happy of how it is looking so far. Now let's darken this plywood a little bit. I did not want to leave it as the raw plywood look, but you definitely could if that's the vibe you want to go for. But of course, I'm going for aged, and the raw plywood look is not that kind of vibe. So I'm using special walnut here. This is a oil-based stain. I'm just wiping it on pretty liberally and then letting it sit and marinate for a few minutes before coming in and wiping any excess oil off. I let that stain dry for a good 24 hours before coming in and taping off. I want to tape the box off so I don't risk getting any paint on it and leaving the drawer front exposed. So I'm going to use a little bit of frog tape on all of my drawers. And then we're going to start sanding the main piece. I'm using a 180 grit sandpaper on every surface to scuff this baby up because it is pretty slick. Now let's prime it. I'm using my shellac spray primer on my drawer fronts and on the main cubby piece. I want to do a nice layer on both pieces because we are going to be applying milk paint to this, and I want some crackle. I want some crazing, and I want some chippiness. So I really like using shellac on my wooden items before coming in with the milk paint. I'm out of my favorite milk paint color, Oh Olive, so I'm going to improvise. I have a blue paint, I think it's Kent, then I have this lighter yellow milk paint, and then I have In a Pickle. I'm going to do 2 scoops of each of these Sweet Pickins milk paint colors, and y'all, the color green it created, I love it. I love it. And just that blue and yellow paint together alone without the in the pickle creates a gorgeous green too. I'm gonna have to do that on another project soon. But look at this gorgeous green we created. I think it's very, very similar to O Olive. Very similar. And kind of the other green that I like to use too, the other green mixture. I think they're pretty close. Either way, no surprise here. I'm painting the piece green. When I was adding my water to my milk paint powder, I left out a spoonful of water. So it was I did like 6 scoops of powder, only 5 scoops of water. I wanted my mixture to be thick, so I had to do less coats. I only needed to do 1 coat on these drawer fronts, and the crackle was good. I worked 2 drawer fronts at a time before I came in with my heat gun and really forced that crackle. I didn't get any chippiness this time, but that's okay. We got lots and lots of crazing and crackle, and I did not want the milk paint to dry, so I just kept on working 2 drawer fronts at a time and then using the heat gun to force dry it. And y'all, look at that texture. That was amazing. I'm going to do the same thing, working section by section on the actual body of our cubby organizer thing. I don't know what I've called it that this whole video. That's crazy. This tower organizer, this cubby tower, that's what I'm going to call it, a cubby tower. I'm going to paint this side, applying the milk paint nice and thick, and then come in with my heat gun again to force dry the milk paint. Now that our paint is dry, I want to do some light distressing and sand over the entire piece just to knock down some of that texture. Sometimes when you're using milk paint, you'll get a little bit of clumps here and there. So I want to smooth the piece out and just do a little bit of stressing on the high points, corners, and edges. Now let's seal this piece up with some Fusion Agent Wax. Y'all know I love using this Agent Wax, especially over a green color, really over any color. It's just awesome. What it does to the paint, it just deepens the color up. It just like richens the color. Just look at it compared to that dull looking drawer front beside it. It's going to bring out all that crackle and texture we created. So I'm just going to wipe it on with a chip brush that I store in a plastic bag, because your wax brushes, they just don't clean well. So I just try to keep the same wax brush for a little while, and then I'll just throw it away and grab a new one. Once I let it sit and soak up for a little bit, I'm going to come in with a blue shop towel and wipe up any excess wax and buff it in. Then I'm going to jump and do the same thing to our tower cubby situation. I had two options for this piece. I could use the hardware I purchased for that blue dresser I did a couple weeks ago, or I could use the library card pulls. It was no question to me. This project was calling and screaming for the library card pulls. So I'm going to take some measurements and find center of my drawer. I'm going to use this little cool Craig square thingy and make the measurements on my drawer front, and then I'm going to pre-drill my holes and add my 2 screws. I was rushing for time to finish this project. I'm going to use some postcards I have here for my labels to go in my library card pulls, but my plan was to stamp out the word 1 through 7, like spell it out, and stamp it and age the paper. But I just didn't have time to do that, so I think this was a awesome touch still. I might go in and change it a little later, but then again, I really like the way this turned out too, cutting down these older postcards and sticking them in the label holder. And a reminder, here's what we started with, and then here is our finished project. Man, oh man, this was a good makeover if you ask me. I absolutely love tiny drawers, cubbies, organizers. They are very much trending right now. I'm so impressed with this piece. Y'all let me know what y'all think about it. Would you attempt to build little drawers to fit in a cubby you thrifted? Y'all let me know down in the comments. I think I'm gonna price this piece for maybe 130. I don't know. They're so trending. Y'all let me know what you would price this piece for too. That is all I have for you today, my friends. I really hope you enjoyed these before and after projects. If I had to pick a favorite, it's going to be that tall green cubby cabinet I built the little drawers for. But y'all let me know what your favorite is down in the comments. I wanted to pop up here just for 1 second, and of course Roscoe is going to make a scene in the background, but I'm not stopping. We are headed towards the end of January, and that means a membership only video is coming out beginning of February. I wanted to remind you about my channel membership program. There's 2 levels. You can find out that info down in the description box below. You'll see want to become a channel member, and there's a clickable link right there for you to sign up. But I especially right now want to talk about the restored membership. We are growing. We are thriving over there. I have about 30 amazing women so far, and it's just an awesome community. I just created us a private creative club Facebook group where we can share our projects, share inspiration, get tips and tricks and all that kind of creative stuff over there in a more private setting. But that membership comes with so much more. You get a unlimited use free shipping code to my website. You get weekly sales sheet so you can see what is selling, what is trending, and what it is selling for every week in my retail vendor mall. And what else? There's so much goodness. You get on a first come, first served basis from when you sign up. 2 members get chosen to receive freebies from me, some happy mail of my excess craft supplies. You get member shout outs. What else? There's just so much goodness. And you get the membership video where I go over line item by line item following that weekly sales sheet with a picture and a price, and a few other extra video clips is normally thrown into that video. But if that sounds like something you're interested in, if you have a booth, just getting started with the booth, and you need some tips and tricks to have a successful business, I highly recommend joining this group. That is the restored membership, and that is $9.99 a month. I think that is an awesome deal. Either way, if you do sign up, be sure to email me. My email address is in the description box of every video so I can send you all the information. But other than that, friends, that is all I have for you today. Keep an eye out or ear out for some information soon regarding the IOD spring release. Oh, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing, and I cannot wait to get my hands on these products. Either way, thank y'all. Thank you for spending your time with me today, for supporting me, and however you support me. I appreciate you being here, and I'll talk to you in the comments. Bye.